Hello and welcome to another stream analyzing The Unknown Reality, Volume 2, a Seth book by Jane Roberts. I am Poetic Heretic, and I will be taking you through the material as usual. And also, as usual, I need just a minute or two to get things set up while I make some preliminary remarks. So you can fast forward or you can listen to me talk if you're watching when this is not live. It's totally up to you. Yes, we are on volume 2 now, which is very interesting so far, but we've just barely begun it. We got through the intro last time and all that, and we finally got to the first session. Now we're gonna get some solid session material in the stream. So one moment, please. Okay. The audio is good. So I'm coming to you from a very brightly lit, very well lit evening here in my residence. It is 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The sun is setting, but still very bright. Right. The perfect conditions for diving in to the unknown reality. And that is, of course, my air conditioner clicking on to keep me cool. To keep it from getting ridiculously hot in here. More of volume 2 of The Unknown Reality. Join in for the secrets. So I'm also currently using, for the first time, first stream, the new windscreen on my microphone. And I would show it, but I'm afraid I would mess something up. But maybe I could show a picture of it or something later. But yes, I have it on my microphone. I don't know if it's really making any difference, but it is at least there. So hopefully it's helping, even if just a little bit. And it also helps protect my microphone, increasing the life cycle of it, or at least that's what they say. But so that's a good thing. And for anyone out there who is sort of familiar with this stuff, yes, the windscreen is covering my microphone entirely, at least as far as I can tell. There's no spaces or gaps or anything, so it should be working perfectly. But when I've tested this on my own, I can still hear some level of background noise, but it does sound overall better to me. So hopefully it does help. But anyway, yes, we're analyzing more volume 2 of The Unknown Reality. Remember, this is an analysis. This is not my just sitting here reading it the entire time. And it's also not just my sitting here believing it the entire time. It's an analysis. It's a critical thought exercise. At least ideally it is that. So I've got coffee this evening because I need it. Didn't get very much sleep. So I've got that to wake me up. And so I suggest, as usual, that the viewers now relax, maybe grab a cup of coffee for yourself or tea or whatever you like to drink, and just enjoy this steady unfoldment of knowledge as we dive in more to the unknown reality. All right, let the games begin. Session 707, July 1st. Well, that's fucking weird. It's July 1st and currently. That's, wow, okay. Synchronicity. think that happened last time too. July 1st, 1974, 9:21 p.m., Monday. It's also a Monday, and 8:05 p.m. The 706th session was held as scheduled last Wednesday night, and our guest, Tam Mosman, did witness it. But since Seth didn't come through with any dictation for unknown reality during the session, it's hereby deleted. Earlier this evening, I reminded Jane of the conversation about cells versus their components that we'd had because of Seth's material at 9:38 in session 705. Some of tonight's bookwork refers to the questions growing out of our talk, I think, as does Seth's brief clarification near the end of the session. Now, good evening, Seth. Dictation. The cells, of course, are changing. The atoms and molecules within them are always in a state of flux. The CUs that are within all matter have a memory bank that would far surpass any computers. Footnote. See Note 3 for Appendix 12 in this volume. End of footnote. As cellular components, the atoms and molecules, therefore, carry memory of all the forms of which they have been part. At deep levels, the cells are always working with probabilities and comparing probable actions and developments in the light of genetic information. The most intricate behavior is involved in calculations instantly made, for instance, before you can take one step or lift your finger. This does not involve underlined only the predictive behavior of the physical organism alone, however. At these deeper levels, the cellular activity includes making predictive judgments about the environment underlined outside of the body. The body obviously does not operate alone, but in relationship with everything about it. When you want to walk across the room, the body must not only operate using hindsight and quote-unquote prediction as far as its underlined own behavior is concerned, but it must take into consideration the predictive activity of all of the other elements in that room. Give us a moment. At basic levels, of course, the motion of a muscle involves the motion of cells and of cellular components. Here I am saying that the atoms and molecules themselves, because of their characteristics, not only deal with probabilities within the body's cellular structure, but also helps the body make predictive judgments about entities or objects outside of itself. Pause, then humorously, you quote-unquote know that a chair is not going to chase you around the room, for instance. At least the odds are against it. You underlined know this because you have a reasoning mind, but that particular kind of reasoning mind knows what it underlined knows because at deep levels the cells are aware of the nature of probable action. The beliefs of the conscious mind, however, set your goals and purposes. Quote-unquote you are the one who decides to walk across the floor, and then all of these inner calculations take place to help you achieve your goal. The conscious intent, therefore, activates the inner mechanisms and changes the behavior of the cells and their components. I don't know, you guys. I think my chair is chasing me around right now. I think it was chasing me around last night. In far greater terms, the goals set consciously by your species also set into operation the same kind of inner biological activity. The goals of the species do not exist apart from individual goals. As you go about your life, therefore, you are very effectively taking part in the quote-unquote future developments of your species, period. Let us look for a moment at the private psyche. 948. The quote-unquote private psyche sounds like a fine term, but it is meaningless unless you apply it to underlined your psyche. A small amount of self-examination should show you that in a very simple way, you are always thinking about probabilities. You are always making choices between probable actions and alternate courses. A choice presupposes probable acts, each underlined possible, each capable of actualization within your system of reality. Your private experience is far more filled with such decisions than you usually realize. There are tiny innocuous instances that come up daily. Shall I go to the movies or bowling? Shall I brush my teeth now or later? Should I write to my friend today or tomorrow? There are also more pertinent questions having to do with careers, ways of life, or other deeper involvements. Underlined in your terms, each decision you make alters the reality that you know to one degree or another. Practice element 9. For an exercise, keep notes for a day or so of all the times you find yourself thinking of probable actions, large or small. Footnote. In Volume 1 of Unknown Reality, Seth designed all but 2 of his 8 exercises or practice elements to help the reader directly explore some of the aspects of probable realities, although even the exceptions, numbers 6 and 8, aren't far removed from probability concepts. His first practice element grew out of Jane's projection into a probable past in her hometown of Saratoga Springs, New York. End of footnote. In your mind, try to follow, quote unquote, what might have happened had you taken the course you did not take. Then imagine what might happen as a result of your chosen decisions. You are a member of the species. Any choice you make privately affects it biologically and psychically. You can literally underline choose between health and illness, between a concentration upon the mental more than the physical, or upon the physical more than the mental. Such private decisions affect the genetic heritage of the species. Your intent is all important, for you can alter your own genetic messages within certain limits. Footnote. See the 705th session at 1048. End of footnote. You can cause a cell or a group of cells to change their self-image, for example, and again, you do this often, as you healed yourselves of diseases because of your underlined intent to become well. The intent will be conscious, though the means may not be, period. In such a case, however, the self-healing qualities of the cells are reinforced, and the self-healing abilities of the species are also strengthened. Take your break. 10:05 to 10:32. Now, your private psyche is intimately concerned with your earthly existence, and in your dream state you deal with probable actions, and often work out in that condition the solutions to problems or questions that arise having to do with probable sequences of events. Footnote. In Volume 1, see Session 687 at 10:01, Seth discussed how the dreamer and his or her probable selves, having, quote, the same psychic roots, end quote, can share in working out a given challenge in a probable reality. I also suggest a reading of the material on dreams and probable realities in chapters 14 and 15 of the Seth material. End of footnote. On many occasions, then, you set yourself a problem. Shall I do this or that? And form a dream in which you follow through with the probable futures that would, quote unquote, result from the courses available. While you are sleeping and dreaming, your chemical and hormonal activity faithfully follows the courses of the dreams. Even in your accepted reality, then, to that extent in such a dream you react to probable events as well as to the events chosen for a waking physical experience. Your daily life is affected, because in such a dream you deal with probable predictabilities. You are hardly alone, however, so each individual alive also has his and her private dreams, and these help form the underlined accepted probability sequence of the following day, and of quote-unquote time to come. The personal decisions all add up to the global happenings on any given day. And do you ever think about that, dear viewers? Do you ever think, like, anytime you do something as simple as, like, walk outside through your neighborhood or wherever, like, just that simple action of your walking outside is affecting so many different things. You know, other people may see you, other people may or may not interact with you, various birds and insects and whatever will perceive you in their own way. And of course, where one little action will trigger another action and another and another and another until like the tiniest thing can change the greatest thing that would seemingly be completely unconnected with it. I think about that sometimes, when I'm walking outside the house, when I leave my house, I'm thinking, I'm sort of like asserting myself into this overall energetic soup, or this energetic ocean, this ocean of energy that exists as humanity. I'm like inserting myself or asserting myself into it more and affecting it. It's interesting to think about. All right, where were we? Give us a moment. Long pause, eyes closed. There are underlined lands of the mind. Footnote. Jane herself first mentioned lands of the mind during break in the 703rd session, which was held some 3 weeks ago, but she'd picked up the phrase from Seth. See the notes at the close of that session in Volume 1. End of footnote. That is, the mind has its own quote-unquote civilizations, its own personal culture and geography, its own history and inclinations. But the mind is connected with the physical brain, and so hidden in the brain's, folds there is an archaeological memory. To some extent, what you know underlined now is dependent upon what underlined will be known and what underlined has been known in your terms. The quote unquote past races of men live to that extent within your now, as do those who will seemingly come after. So, underlined, ideally speaking, the history of your species can be discovered quite clearly within the psyche, and true archaeological events are found not only by uncovering rocks and relics, but by bringing to light, so to speak, the memories that dwell within the psyche. Now that is the end of dictation. 10:45. Next, Seth came through with a page of information for Jane and me. In it were these lines, quote, I believe, incidentally, that I cleared up your question for you. Cells, as entities, do not drop off, brackets, the physical form, like apples. I was using, I suppose, a kind of shorthand I believed was clear in the context given, end quote. End at 11:01 p.m. All right, that is the end of that session. Hey there, Ryan. Papers, please, t-shirt. What? I don't understand. Papers, please. All right, let's see here. So, continue right along with session 708, which has fast forwarded in time quite a bit to September 30th, 1974, 8:58 p.m. Monday. Jane and I hadn't realized it at first, but we were to take a long rest from work on Unknown Reality following the 707th session for July 1st. We were busy during the next 14 weeks, of course. There follow a few notes about some of our activities, grouped together by subject matter rather than chronology. We did have a few quote-unquote deleted sessions for ourselves. Jane also kept her ESP class going, and within that spontaneous format, she often spoke for Seth, or sang in Sumari, her trance language. Footnote. See chapters 7 and 8 in Adventures. End of footnote. It's a Soviet Union-esque indie game where you look at papers from people coming to your country and need to decide if they can be accepted in or turn them away. Your shirt reminds me of the logo for it. So papers, please. Ah, I see. Interesting. People coming into your country. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that phrase before. Papers, please. Can't quite remember what it's from, but like in like an historical context. But I was like, what? No, this is actually this is an alchemical symbol from the show Full Metal Alchemist. but that's interesting. All right, let's see. Where were we? The break in book dictation gave me time to begin attending class regularly, and I plan to continue doing so. And when I began sitting in on class, I discovered anew that its loose structure served as a catalyst for certain little psychic events that I find most enjoyable. Tuesday night is class night, and often such an experience takes place as I rest for half an hour late that afternoon. I record each episode, no matter when I have it. Sometimes I make a drawing also, and use that to supplement my description of the event in class. Following the conference with her editor late in June, Jane has devoted herself to finishing her manuscript for Adventures, while I've worked steadily on the diagrams for it, as well as on the drawings for dialogues. I completed the detailed pencil guides for both sets of art this week. Next comes the finished work for publication, which I'll produce by placing a sheet of clear acetate over each guide, then rendering on that untouched surface the final version in quote-unquote line or pen and ink. This is my own system. The acetate, writing above the penciled outlines, leaves me free to search for various spontaneous effects that are quite inhibited if I try to follow those preliminary images too literally. Then in late August, long before I had the 16 diagrams, plus 2 other pieces of art done for Adventures, I mailed to Prentice Hall Jane's completed manuscript for that book. Adventures is scheduled for publication in mid-1975, but I'll continue referring to it in these notes. Interesting. Sipping some more coffee. In the meantime, on Saturday morning, July 27th, Jane received her first copy of The Nature of Personal Reality, a Seth book from her publisher.